today we not only have a speaker, but my co-author Chiqui is here, and she will share a framework, a 3 by 5 execution framework, and use a case study of Waters Philippines in terms of how it was used. No, now I want to tell you that the framework came after. Because decades ago we were just doing it intuitively, but of course we are educators. Eventually we had to put it together and say what exactly did we do, so that we can explain it to other people. But it turned out that there is a framework, no? I don't know if there are people attending this for the first time, but let me just go through thanking everybody for the support of entrepreneurship book. If you are here just to listen, you have not bought a book, time to have a copy. It's just 480 pesos, no? And it's the highest ever sales launch record. You can go to Josiah Go if you want to know the story. Just go to my blog and read the details. On the first day, I talk about gate, and we intentionally use 4 gate, no? Because gate is intentional. And very intentional. Are you going to enter the gate or not? Just like in business, it's very intentional, no? And I'd like you to think of, if you look at the 4 gates: preparation gate, marketing gate, execution gate, self-leadership gate. They are all very intentional. Some people say, alam ko na yan. Yun pala, palpak, no? We have encountered many things like that they are overconfident. So they did not prepare, no? They think that when when they encounter a situation, they can handle it. But just like a chef, if you have not, what is called prep, if you have not pre-prepared and there are a lot of customers suddenly come in, that execution is really going to affect you, no? You prepare, you market, customer come in, how are you going to execute, no? And then if there's a crisis, then you need self-leadership. So there are actually 4 gates. And we pattern the definition of entrepreneurship really based on the 4 gates, no? An owner who invests resources, brings idea to life, setting directions, making things happen, and adding value. Setting direction is not just marketing, but the strategy side. No, you need to make a choice. So today I'm going to talk about making things happen. And very similar to the first day, I want to remind everybody, what does it mean to make things happen? So I want to talk about letter C. So you have A on the red color, B on the green color, C is the blue color, the execution side, the 3 M's. Machinery, which is your team. Who's going to help you? No? Now, if you're an entrepreneur, sooner or later, you need a team to help you. Now, if you do not have a team to help you, you start wondering, do you actually have a business or do you have a hobby? Because sometimes, if you have a business and you do everything, that means you're not scaling. No, you don't need help. So if you're not scaling, do you actually have a business? Or think about it. No, it may just be hobby. Just look at your sales. How much sales do you have? Is it growing? Is it just 10,000, 20,000, under 50,000 a month? And otherwise, and you need to distinguish this. And many times, some people were consulting me, I have a business, and I say, you don't have a business, you have a hobby, no? So have reality check, in terms of looking at whether you have a team to help you. If you don't have a team, don't also fire people so that you can say you have a team, because sometimes it's too premature, no? I know an entrepreneur who so early said, I'm going to hire a GM. I said, why do you want to hire a GM? You don't have economies of scale. Have a scale first, and then you have a GM, no? Especially if you have If you don't have a lot of money, then you need to conserve. Where do you want to put the money? Certainly, it's in inventories, no, as a priority. Then you have methods, which are really processes. Later, I'm going to show you about methods and processes in the operating model, and then you have the management skill. Do you know how to, do you have people skill? If you don't have people skill, do you know how to, how to handle rewards, for example? Do you know, so what skills do you know? So that you can create momentum because you have to make things happen. And what happened is you have momentum. Somebody who is experienced can have speed, no? Another who is not experienced and no critical thinking cannot give you the speed. So what happened is you end up, very slow pace, lack of energy, and so so ask yourself, what kind of people do you really want? And then I'll go to the next slide. Just by way of reminder, I said, well, EQ execution, you need emotional quotient to know how to get things done. You need to take initiative, and you need to know how to influence partner, influence dealers, influence collaborators, influence so many other things, no? And then you need to build the culture. And I always tell people, when you build a culture, you need to understand what kind of culture do you want. Do you want a high performance culture? I've seen a company trying to, and mistake of many people, they try to create a republic of so many people doing nothing, practically nothing. And when people are busy, you start asking, are they doing what is required, or they're just stretching the job so that they can justify what they're doing? No? So be very careful. You need to build a culture that mediocrity is not going to be tolerated in your company, which means that you just want to have, you need to have people who care for your company. Of course, you need to care for them too, but it has to be performance based. It cannot be based on awa, no? My personal take on building culture is, you can be soft on people, but you have to be hard on performance, which means if there are expectations, then there are expect. But you need to create expectation. Otherwise, how can you have work without expectation? And the chaos lalabas to, no? And I've often informed entrepreneur. I said, you grow the business, but you need to build the culture. I know of a company in, I won't tell you in which industry. The business was growing, but the culture was very bad because the practices, they corrupt their customer. Yung mga lagay-lagay, no? They corrupt their customer. I said, tigilan nyo na yan. It's not gonna last very long. And true enough, the culture of the company was very hawa-hawa na lahat. Everybody became corrupt, no? And you think they are, corrupting customer. Eventually, even the people were doing corruption because the boss tolerates corruption, no? And of course, part of it is that if you want to execute, you also need the humility to listen. If somebody has a better idea, then of course you go for it. No, make sure that people will suggest to you, and at the same time, people are willing to are willing to have a stake, no, in what they're doing. And lastly, I want to remind you, there's a lot of failure in execution. But essentially, the failure are associated with the failure to organize. Why? Because sometimes people do not have organization skill. They just know how to plan. And sometimes I met very bright people, but they don't know how to execute. So I said, sad, no? In fact, I have a former staff. who came to me and told me that she wants to learn execution in management. I said, sure, join a former student of mine, no? Because in her previous company, she was a high-ranking, a brand manager in a multinational company. Said it's just pure planning. They don't execute as much, They coordinate at, if that's partly execution, but that's all that they do, no? So there's failure to organize, failure to systematize. So you need to routinize everything. You need to create a system, no? So that it becomes very easy for you. I know of a sales force where the sales manager's job is to approve discounts, no? I said, so why is your sales manager job approve discount? Kasi the sales force, hingi ng discount, no? I said, stop it, come up with a rule. The rule is, okay, all of salesman, you get 2% commission. If you are able to sell, then you keep the entire 2%. If you want to give discount, it's up to you. You want to give part of your 2%, you want to give it away, sure, but it's charged to you. But henceforth, you do not have to clear to us. You can give within the 2%, and then all the discount requests became gone, no? Why? Because walang systemic. And so because it was being tolerated, siyempre, everybody asked for a discount. They tried to get discount for the client. Tuloy, ang gulo-gulo, no? Kasi ang dami nilang ahente. Yung salesman, I don't know what happened. Why the company tolerated it. They pay the sales manager to approve this. Wala na silang trabaho masyado. No more training, no more, taga-approve ng discount. Sad, no? If you have a sales manager that way. But you also fail to humanize, and that's the reason why EQ is very important. No? In execution, you listen, you look, get feedback. Some people might have suggestions. Sure, they might have a better opinion. So do it, no? So one of the first, so I've given you an introduction, but one of the core execution is to understand how do you make things really happen. And to make things really happen, there are two things in your operating model that you have to remember: resources and processes. Processes, I told you, mga systems, procedure, process map. And then resources, there are two types, no? Hard asset or soft asset. Hard asset like your brand, your infrastructure. Soft asset like your skills, your knowledge, no? These are resources. And that's the reason why sometimes when one person get pirated by another company, no? And I've met people who got attracted to higher pay, no? And then they join another company only for them to write to me that they have regretted. And I said, bakit naman? Because they cannot execute anything. And the company, the management of the company was not very educated in terms of how to get things done. They just know how to pay more, and then you execute without realizing you can't execute unless you have the resources. Brand makes a big difference. Is the brand reputable? And in the case of management, when we have events, many times last year, this year, when we have event, we deal with major venue like Rockwell, SMX. They're very open, no? And they would even say, okay, let's collaborate, and I'll give you discounts, and let's see how we can help each other, because they're also interested in our target audience, no? So a brand can make a big difference in execution. When we invite speakers, they're very happy to accept, no? Because of reputation. When there's a newer company, then they said, who you know, so it's harder to execute. So you need to take that into consideration. And then you have priorities. In other words, goals. Ano ba goals mo, no? Because if you have not defined what exactly do you want, you will never reach there. Why? Because you don't know where you're going. It's like a taxi driver comes and then will ask the passenger, oh, saan ho tayo papunta? Where is our destination? You say, I don't know, ikot-ikot muna tayo. It's very expensive. So part of it is, what is your goal? You need to understand, ano ba, what do you want to be? What exactly do you want to do? So if you want to do, okay, do I have the resources? Do I have the process? No. And sometimes you don't have the process. Chops to Go told us when they started Chops to Go, they didn't have the process, but they were setting it up on the fly. They were just trusting their instinct, but they said we made a lot of mistake because they were not as organized. No? Kasi mabilisan. So that's the advantage of working with a much older company. So if you have, now I told you, processes does not have to be everything documented in a book. That if you're not a writer, you cannot have there's no such thing, no. It could be as simple as bullet points, process maps, how things are done. It could be as simple as there is a process after every project, there is a terminal report. And the terminal report are used as evidence in the next year when the next, like we have terminal report, other companies also have terminal reports. There's nothing fantastic about it, but you basically start a plan and then you have a terminal report. So that you can have data in terms of what exactly are we talking about, no? So I want to spend a little time here and talk about continue the story of Mang Inasal, because last time I was talking about Mang Inasal and I was just talking about the right side, no? And you notice the right side, I call it the operating model. Now I want to talk about operations. I want to talk about operating model. The first thing you need to know is operating model cannot stand alone. You don't talk about operation execution. Okay, what's there to execute? What's the plan first? And if you don't have a plan, there's nothing to execute, diba? So I'm so good in execution, somebody might say, but when you join a company without plan, then the guy is useless, no? Because hindi alam ang plano, no? The best way is you can both a planner and you can execute. That's the best, no? And execution comes in at least two things that you have to understand. One is you have the experience. And the second is you have the critical thinking, problem-solving skill, no? If you don't have critical thinking, problem-solving skills, but you have the experience or you're willing to learn from somebody else's experience, like reading a terminal report where mistakes are documented, no? Then, you can be a much better operator, no? Of an initiative, no? So let me just show you. Remember last meeting, there are 11 building blocks, and I said, Mang Inasal, target market are barbecue chicken lovers, Jollibee customer. The value proposition is barbecue chicken in QSR, quick service restaurant format, only rice, etc. And then it's retail, there's delivery, and then the customer bonding strategy, which is awareness, trial, and repeat purchase, is that they advertise for branding. They have sales promo every time there's store open, like sampling is a type of sales promo. And then it's a sit-down service, no? And then they have revenue model. They make money through restaurant sales. When they franchise, they get franchise fee. When they have rebates, from soft drinks company, for instance, they get the rebate. Not the franchisee, but the franchisor gets the rebate. And if they have investment, they get investment income. No? Then we go to number 6, value chain, which is beside value proposition, and it's there because of a reason. And the reason is value chain delivers the value proposition. So in your company, if you have problem in and you're not getting the sales, don't keep on blaming your value proposition. So if you blame the value proposition, and I've seen a company, they keep on changing their strategy. I say, why do you keep on changing? It's possible there's nothing wrong with your strategy. What's wrong is your execution. So what do you have to look at? Look at the value chain. Look at the value chain of the original Mang Inasal. They have, they look for chicken supplier and raw material supplier. Well, first is, how can you be a chicken restaurant if you don't have a chicken? Obviously, you need chicken, no? And then you have raw material, the spices, whatever, the equipments. Equipment, iba pa, no? The spices, the oil, and so forth and so on. And then you have the lessor, because it's retail, no? So you have to deal with rental. Then you have the logistics, like delivery, etc. And then you have branding, and then you have franchising, no? They start advertising, they start promoting, and then they say, let's have a franchising group. And so if you want to learn more about franchising, you can go to josiahgo.com, search for franchising. I must have dozens and dozens of articles about franchising, no? So read. Many times people write to me and say, can you mentor me about, and then they start asking questions. And I get this strange feeling that, they are not well versed, no? One is they're well versed if they should have read, diba? If that there is a free resource, all they have to do is to read. But they want to ask me, and I said, come on, do the homework first, and take the initiative before you ask me, no? And for strange reason, they want me to just keep on repeating and repeat. So don't be a mentee that way. Do your homework, no? So you have your value chain, and then you have 7 and 8. 6, 7, 8 combined, no? 7, you have your processes. Anong key process? What's the difference between 6 and 7, by the way? Value chain is like the forest, no? The entire forest. Processes are the important trees. Not all trees inside the forest are equally important, diba? The more important trees are called processes. Like what? NPD, new product development, no? Like what? Retail setup. Many retailer, they have one group doing nothing except setup lang, no? Goldilocks, Chooks to Go, etc. Kasi they're opening store almost every day. So you have one group talagang in charge of setup. After setup, operations people take over, no? Then you have store operation, you have inventory management, then you have marketing. And then in terms of resources, you have branch network. Bakit ang dami naman inasal dyan eh? So why do you go to Mang Inasal? Because, well, location. They have so many locations. Number 2 is that well, part of it is that they have a brand. And for me, a brand is a simplifier of choice. If you want to choose, do you choose somebody that you don't know? Or you choose a brand that you're aware? Of course, you choose a brand that you're aware of, no? Why? Trust. At least walang sabit, no? So you have 6, 7, 8. The 3 combined in operation is also called your value architecture, no? And your value architecture combined repeatedly deliver the value proposition. And that's the reason why you need to plan well. What's the most important process? You cannot say everything are important. And hindi ka na nagpa-plan. You have to make a choice. Relatively important. Some are more important than the others. Of course, all trees, in the name of sustainability, all trees are important. But not all are equally important, no? And then number 9, you said, who's gonna help you? So of course, Mang Inasal said supplier, commissary, franchisees, and then delivery, no? Take note that in the value chain, there's franchising. But of course, easier said than done, no? You can say franchising, o sino makilala mo, no? In the case of Mang Inasal, he said, probinsyano ako, taga Iloilo ako, wala naman akong kilalang franchise sa taga Maynila. Hindi naman ako nag-aaral sa UP Ateneo Lasal. Yung classmate ko naman, hindi taga Maynila. Wala naman akong classmate na mayaman. Diba? So may problema siya sa franchise. So kailangan, naghanap siya ng mga tulong sa mga tao marunong mag-franchise, no? And of course, kailangan, in the case of lessor, kailangan may strategy din siya. May dala-dala ng cheque, no? That if he likes, Injapsia likes a location, bayad siya kagad. And he said, i-reserve ito sa Jollibee, Diyos ko po. Magmi-meeting pa yan sa Jollibee, ilang buwan pa yan, no? Ito, babayaran ko na, kunin ko na, di ba? At the same price. So, what do you have to lose? In fact, it could even be higher price for Mang Inasal. So that's how he went through speed in terms of execution, no? And then in terms of reconfiguration, I already mentioned that earlier in terms of what is the start doing and stop doing. But let me just explain. No? Start doing is industry first. Not your company first, because as I said, the company first, you might be doing catch-up, no? But industry first is kayo talaga nauna within the industry. Like Mansmith is the first training company that became an awards-giving body. Industry first yun. You change the boundaries of your company. But to be able to do that, you need insight. Because if you don't have insight, it's not gonna happen, no? And if you do it core and adjacency, immediately you need to switch from one concept, go to the next, and you need to, convert insight to messaging, insight to value proposition, and keep on expanding. If not, you might lose your position, no? And stop doing is you're basically challenging the assumption, the first 2 years kasi masyado mura ang Mang Inasal, so okay lang walang, walang aircon. And everything boils down to cost. When you're operating model, it boils down to cost. So you have to ask yourself, when you're doing execution, ito ba, kailangan pa ba? Kasi kung di mo naman kailangan, halimbawa, yesterday I was talking to a banker. I said, alam mo, kakaawa itong banker na to before. Wala na nag-bankrupt na yung company. Bakit? Kasi nag-i-sponsor ng mga polo tournament, mga kung ano-ano tournament abroad, which has nothing to do with banking in the Philippines, no? Masyadong magastos. So tuloy, tapos yung execution, papadala niya yung tao niya sa abroad kasi kailangan mag-execute. But all of them have nothing to do with the business in the Philippines, no? Other than relationship. But the relationship does not have to be polo naman abroad, no? It could be something else. It boils down to cost. And as you know, the green color, number 5, revenue, number 11, cost. Revenue minus cost is your profitability. So if you don't take care of your cost becomes too high, you're not gonna be profitable. For entrepreneurial company, may mga technique kasi yan eh. When you interview an entrepreneur can tell you, kumikita ako, etc. But when you start asking, do you give yourself salary? No. Ayun pala, kumikita siya. Dahil hindi siya nagbibigay ng sweldo sa sarili niya. Pero pag naglagay sila ng sweldo sa sarili niya, posible hindi na sila kumita, di ba? So that's the context, no? And sometimes, ako, kasi when I go to a franchising show, I also know how to ask, no? And say, okay, the franchising company will also promote, bili ka ng franchise, you can have ROI or whatever. So I always ask, anong assumption mo sa ROI? Tinan ko kayo expenses niyo. May assumption ba na bayad yun may-ari? At least, pag if we nothing fantastic, huwag naman masyado mataas kasi startup, no? And kadalasan, dinadaya nila, parang wala, no? And I said, be careful, no? Because you might suddenly remove trust if you don't disclose. Kasi minsan, pag hindi mo tinanong, hindi sasabihin sa'yo. So tinatanong sa akin, what do I think about it? Sabi ko, that's already a red flag for not being trustworthy because I have problem dealing with people that I cannot trust. Just because I did not ask, I expect people to disclose. Di ba parang mag-asawa yan? You need to disclose, no? Maski na gano'ng kasama, disclose, no? And let the other person decide kung ano ang decision. So you can see execution, you can see the right side is offering, the left side is operating, no? And I'm gonna stop here. We're gonna have briefly Q&As. And if you have questions, you can ask me. And then we're gonna show you the message of Rosemarie Rafael. And then we're gonna ask Chiqui to come in, no? Pero para hindi malabo, one at a time. If you have questions about this business model map, on the left side talking about operating model, feel free to ask, no? And I'm going to answer the question while it's early. Maliwanag ba? May tanong po kayo? Uy, daming tao. Akala ko we're just expecting 20 plus people. Oh, we're 30 plus pala, no? Kayo, ano mga issues no about execution? What are the issues that what affects you? For example, what's your number one issue operating your business? Can somebody be willing to share? You can open your video if you wish, so that we can see each other. Or you can type if you're more comfortable. No? So what are issues affecting your business?
Kobe is raising his hand. You can unmute po.
Sorry, I didn't see. So who's raising a hand?
Kobe po.
Kobe? Okay, Kobe, you're recognized. Please go ahead.
Hi. I think for us it's sticking to our plans while also being open to mga opportunistic, na opportunities that may come by. Minsan it's good pero it might throw the plan, yung established mong plan into chaos, no?
So what's your question?
Well, say, how kaya do we balance our of course staying to our plan and staying to our execution plan while without being so strict na
Yeah, I get it.
close doors to opportunities.
Yeah, I get it. One of the things that I'd like you to think of as an entrepreneur, no, is in terms of the ability to say yes and the ability to say no. Mahirap kasi if you say yes to everything, opportunistic, as you said, no? Uy, may opportunity, kami natin. Oo. So, part of it is that hindi lahat ng opportunity you want to exploit. And to be able to say no, you need to be very clear with your new product criteria. So my suggestion is create a new product criteria, and so that it's very easy. You just measure it na lang. So if it doesn't meet the criteria, then you say no. Kaysa every time mag-iisip ka, tagal mo nag-iisip, no? Ngayon, kung 10 taon na puro no ka pa rin, tingnan mo yung criteria mo naman. Baka naman mali yung criteria mo. Masyadong strict, no? So, for example, in my other business, which is direct selling, no? And Chiqui will talk about it. One of the criteria is I like the product to be demonstrated. I don't like the product that easily anybody can pick up, like toaster and blender. Everybody knows about it na eh. So I have that criteria. Ay kailangan demonstrable, no? At saka kailangan early in the product life cycle. I don't like masyadong too familiar. Bakit? Because that's already there's a lot of red ocean there. Companies killing each other, lower prices. Whereas if it's demonstrable, usually there are good margins, good opportunity, and less competition there. No, I think that could be one in terms of do you want to take advantage of opportunity or not? No. The second is what is called core and adjacency. Whatever is your core, whatever is your business now, then ask yourself, what is your business? What's your, what do you think is your business? What business are you in? What's your product, Kobe?
Actually, we're a services po. Actually, financial.
Financial services. O anong
Yes.
klaseng financial? Micro-lending, ganun?
Yeah, lending, ano po. Yes.
Okay, so how do you know, so how do you identify your product? What business are you in?
So we provide working capital to
You provide capital, okay. To who?
so for us, it's of course we have our for like size and so on. Yeah. But also it's sometimes may may mga chicken and egg problem kayo na
Yeah.
uh, na there's an opportunity but it requires like something to move also. Parang you have to do something pa to make it work. Pero if you do that, parang engaged ka na. If you do that.
Point of order lang. We're deviating, no? So I need to
So,
call it out. My question is to who? Who's your target market? You provide capital to who? Who's your target market? I'll make a point
uh,
after.
we're actually targeting medium-size enterprise. No? So actually, we really we try to help the medium become the large. So we go for like companies that are doing already close to like 100 million pesos.
Okay.
But at the same time, you know, you see the small naman who are, so to say, ipit.
Okay, I
No, they
understand.
can't make it to the medium.
I understand. So you're
Mm.
kind of medium, but you start wondering, should I include the small, no? And then you start asking yourself, in the medium, they have hundreds of millions of sales. You want to help them to do large. So ano ba problema nila? Is it capital ang kailangan nila? Or do they have other issues, no? Other than capital? And so who are you competing with? The banks, because they have scale and they can go to the banks, no? And the banks can offer a lower rate, no? So in fact, banks now are, quite competitive, no? So if it's small naman, wala naman kulang-kulang ng documents, you don't know what they're saying is true, you just have to interview them to know. And in the case of small, what business are you in? Are you in are you providing capital? Or you are in the livelihood business, no? That you're in the business of helping uplift the small time entrepreneur into a medium size that, iba, posibleng may iba magiging product niyo, no? Beyond capital. I have some friends, for instance, they provide a rental space for exhibits. But then they start saying, but are we in the rental space business, no? Leasing business? But then kasi nalaman nila, ang daming mga lesson, nalulugi pag nag-exhibit. So they started giving training. And so iba na yung business nila, di ba? So yun iba, may training, may bayad, yun iba, walang bayad kasi sinama nila sa rental nila, no? So what business are they in? Are they in the leasing business? Or are they in helping entrepreneurs, no? Grow. That's another business, no? And then biglang may pangatlong product, no? Pag kulang ng capital, part of the, they have an investment group that say, okay, kulang ka ng capital, I'll give you capital to grow, no? Kasi nakikita nila as an exhibitor, nakikita nila kung lumalago ang business o hindi, no? And so I go back to why we're talking about this. We're talking about this because of new product criteria. So that has to be clear. And it's a dynamic document, no? It doesn't last forever. So you just have to keep on asking yourself, what business do you want to do? What business do you not want to do, no? I'll give you an example of dynamic. When we started in Mansmith 35 years ago, we're 35 years this year, no? 35 years ago, business, seminar naman ang business namin eh. Wala pa naman kaming libro, no? We're in the seminar business. But now the seminar business is just a small part of our business because most of our revenue comes from conferences, year-long sponsors, and similar events, no? And so part of it is because you can see opportunity in the market and you can see trends evolving that if you don't change, you'll be left behind, no? And so I hope you learn what I'm saying. New product criteria is important. So in your business, how will you apply new product criteria? So in your case, ano yung criteria mo to add new product? Meron ka na ba, Kobe?
Niluluto pa sa ulo, sorry.
Paano?
Nag-notes pa po.
Okay. You're still thinking about it. You probably have criteria for approving loans. Tama? Kasi may mag-uutang sa'yo, di ba? So
Yes,
kung
of course.
uutang sa'yo, siyempre sabi mo, ba't kita bibigyan? Kailangan meron ka nito. Kailangan yung ratio mo, ganito. Kailangan, etc., etc., no? I think that's one. But you need a separate criteria. Ako, I'm a criteria person. And criteria person, for me, kasi criteria makes you efficient in terms of what you want, what you don't want. No? Otherwise, it's kind of hard, no, without criteria. And even if, let's say, if I'm pursuing something, a goal, a priority, we call it, no, and I don't get it, fine, kasi medyo ang criteria of success mo, at least alam mo anong criteria of success mo. Hindi mababaw, no? At least, so I wish you good luck, Kobe. Think about it. Yun sinusulat mo kanina, pag-isipan mo, in terms of, pero may tip ako sa iyo kanina, ano yung core to adjacency mo dati? And ano yung core to adjacency of your competitor? How did they evolve, no? And then that will give you tip on how to make your new product criteria. And then what is your business, no? Your business is in capital, providing capital or providing livelihood or making life easier, better. There's so many ways of doing it, no? Kami, the way we define it is helping marketing and sales teams soar. That's our business. We're not in training, we're not in conference, we're soar. Biglang lumabas, we should be in awards. Without that soaring, idea of soaring, it's not gonna happen, no? So, biglang, ngayon, ang awards namin, lugi nga eh. It's our loss leader, no? Kasi we don't charge entry fee, we don't charge awards night fee, we don't charge guest fees, no? But it's a public service kasi we're advocacy-based company, no? But because of that, we also generate goodwill that we have year-long sponsorship naman as revenue. So hopefully, it's going to be smooth. No? So think about this, Kobe, and you can feel free to ask, more. How is your collection naman? Nababayaran naman kayo?
Yes, kaya naman. It's for us, the concern is, are we being too strict, no?
I see.
We're letting opportunities Slim mo.
So what kind of collection do you get? 70% collection, for instance, or you get lower than that?
Ay di ko ata pwede i-disclose po, sir. So,
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. So that means you probably not getting good collection, no? And that's called an assumption clause, by the way. And so part of it is
okay naman, pero di ko na pwede.
biglang nagbago isip mo, biglang you want to confirm. I think part of it is, you know, I'm independent director of Union Bank, no? And in the banking industry, then you start looking at how are SMEs doing in terms of paying, no? There are good payers, there are also bad payers, no? So ano yung profile nila? How come there are some people paying, there are also some people not paying, no? Pag-aralan mo yun. And in terms of, and by the way, just so it's very clear, I can only help if I have information, no? And we are sharing information publicly. There's no such thing as we do one-on-one because this is a public service, no? Kasi one-on-one, consulting na yan, no? So, and that's how everybody learn from each other, no? Part of it is sharing information. And it's a tricky business. There's a lot of details that you need to take into consideration. Anyway, I respect that. Your confidentiality. So here's what I'm gonna do. No, I'm gonna show you Rosemarie Rafael, who used to chair the Women Business Council of the Philippines. Send us a short video, no? On how, I just realized yung company nila, ang slogan pala nila, making things happen, if I'm not mistaken, no? So, I'm going to stop share and give way to Kyla so that Kyla can show you the message on execution by Rosemarie. Kyla?
Yes, Joe. Playing now.
Execution in business is critical to winning. We can prepare, plan, strategize, plan again, but this will be nothing if there is no execution. There will be no completion or no fulfillment. I have failed time and again, which I use as my platform to eventually succeed. Here's a real example of what happened when we decided to open a few stalls in SM outlets or SM locations to be able to sell our shipping service, both domestic and international. It started as a B2B, but we decided that, it would be a good idea to go B2B2C. And we believe that there is really an entry and we should be able to do this. But what went wrong? Number one, there was a lack of alignment and focus. Because forwarding is not really a point-to-point type of a business. There's so many angles. In fact, I always say that the last mile delivery is the most expensive component of the supply chain. We started, and that's the reason why the name is Airspeed, we started with air freight, export forwarding. And that started the other services that we have, which is sea freight, customs clearance, warehousing, and now we are into e-commerce, e-fulfillment. So, what was not aligned? The core competencies of Airspeed were not aligned with the retail, because retail is a different ballgame. It's a different business. It's a different animal, actually. So we need to be aware of what does it take to be in retail. What are the resources? What's the allocation of the resources for retail? What about the skills of the people who are there? These are the things that we lost focus on and that we try to work on, because the responsibilities must be aligned and linked to the business outcome that is needed. Number two, there was no measurement of what matters. It was no dashboard. It wasn't clear to the customer service agents who are present in the kiosk of what was expected, what are the targets, what do they have to sell, and how much do they have to sell. So there was really no transparency or status or end of day report, which was needed because you need to know the status of the business and how it's being handled or managed on a day-to-day, especially when you are starting a business. Every day is something that you need to work on so that it will be easy for you to address whatever issues, challenges, or problems there are. Number 3, distractions. There are opportunities, of course. All the time there are opportunities, but we need to know, are these good opportunities or are these opportunities that can just distract you from the path or the direction that you really need to work on. I always believe that when you are intentional in doing something, you really have to focus on what is needed to be able to work out the outcome that you expect. Number 4 is lack of discipline. I myself, I can personally attest to that because I really like to say that to work on something needs to be intentional. To really make something happen, you really have to be in it. When you have to give a service of excellence, it cannot be on today okay yan. Tomorrow, sorry, I'm lazy, so I will not do it. Consistency is more important than intensity. To be able to have the discipline of doing something, especially when desire leaves you, discipline should take over. When you have that discipline in your DNA, that's when excellence will happen. Because no matter what, no matter who looks at you or who sees you, then you are determined to really work on something and push until completion. I always say that push means push until something happens, or better yet, pray until something happens. We sometimes easily give up. Airspeed is on its 40th year this year, and I cannot say that it's all like an upline all throughout these 40 years. There are many times that we're like a cycle. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down, but when you are down, that is what is important, because what do you do when you are down? You cannot give up, you cannot just say, ayoko na, this is it, but you just have to be resilient, you have to be agile, and you have to be able to say, kaya natin to. Number 5 is procrastination. It's sometimes hard to do work that is, how do you say, critical, or it takes more thinking than doing. Many times, especially now, I always tell myself that whenever I make a decision, it's not a decision wherein I will just be affected or my family will be affected, but it's way more than that. Because of the people that we have right now, and there's quite a lot of employees that we have right now, they can be affected on a decision that I make or do not make or delay. So I always look at it that if there are things that I need to work on that takes a lot of thinking or a more difficult decision that you have to do, I really set aside time to really look at the pros and the cons and make a decision to do it or not to do it. Because the more you delay things, the lesser impact you're going to have. I always think of the mantra that I have right now, especially for for Airspeed. It's really about building businesses because you need to be scalable. If you want to help others, you have to be scalable and profitable. And then building communities because you would like to engage communities and be involved in some of the communities that you're helping, and building lives because that is really what matters most. And number 6 is lack of process and systems in place. Sometimes we look at, what do we have? This is the machinery. This is really the people that we have. These are the skills of the people. But then the things that we're doing are no longer aligned with the processes and the systems. And that's why it's always important to have a continuous learning in place to really be open to what's out there that can help us. Sometimes we're so set on, hindi, yan ang ginagawa na noon pa. But what you're doing right now is not actually any more efficient, or we can do something better, but we have to have an open mind to all these things. So when we have the systems in place and processes in place, that helps us more with easier execution, easier implementation, and there can be, no more questions asked because you have set systems in place. Again, to me, we always have to look for how to improve efficiencies, especially in our business, in our industry. Ang daming galaw niyan eh. Every galaw has a cost. So the more efficient we become, the less costly it can become, not only for us, but for our clients as well. Number 7, we fail because we don't think of the full stakeholders' perspective. In organizations, usually it can become territorial, like, this is the marketing group and this is what we only do. No, this is the operations group, and the other units have to understand that this is what we do and we cannot do anything else except this. But as a whole, we have to think of the overall, because what one unit can do or cannot do will impact the whole organization. That's why I really like to avoid silos, and we really have to think as one Airspeed, one company, one organization, because one organization has only one vision and one goal. We need to move and to have the momentum, and this will drive us to keep moving forward until we get everything done. To me, what happened in the past is the past. We can learn from it, but we cannot go back to the past and blame people, blame systems, blame whatever. But we just have to keep on moving forward, break inertia, and gain momentum. Every small and easy steps or movements will definitely contribute to your goal, to the objectives, to the targets that we have. So when we get overwhelmed, we can break it down one step at a time, because one step at a time can take us to the goal. One of the things that we courageously adopted is our brand promise of making it happen. It became our mantra. And I believe that when we take it to heart and we're intentional in really doing the things that we need to do to fulfill the tasks that we have, not only for ourselves, for the employees, or for the stakeholders, but for our clients, for our customers, for our providers, because it really takes a tribe to build something up. We need the team, we need our people to really believe in one vision, because one goal, one vision, one Airspeed, or whatever organization you have can really take it to the next level. I've always believed that there are challenges in every level that you have, but we have to take the challenges in every level of another platform to bring us higher. Excellence to me is not just a task, but it is a habit. It has to be done continuously. And when it becomes that way, that operational excellence will be there, customer service will be there, and giving solutions or business solutions, not only to the stakeholders, but to our clients. And I believe that when we do this continuously, it can become and will become and will becoming to be the DNA of our company, Airspeed, making it happen. Maraming salamat sa inyo.
Okay, we want to thank Miss Rosemarie for the insightful video presentation. Although she can't be with us live today, we truly appreciate the time and effort they dedicated to creating this valuable session for us. So we have a comment from Miss Patricia. I love the mantra making it happen. As businesses, we are to make things happen for our clients. Value promised, value delivered. Thank you so much.
That's true. So let me just summarize what Rose Rafael said. No, I found it very courageous for a business person to share failure and share lessons why they failed. No, and so let me just tell you. First is that when you look at execution, you're really looking at two things. One is you want to increase your capabilities, and two is you want to reduce your risks. So always remember that. So how do you reduce your risk? Well, you can do pre-mortem, you can do scenario planning, you can do so many things, no? But preparation, going back, it's really about preparation. So I want to make a comment in terms of capabilities. And part of it is that when we talk about capabilities, we're really talking about three things. What we call the 3C of execution. Chiqui is going to give you another case, no? And it's about commitment, competency, and coordination. And why did the new initiative fail? Because there's no effectiveness, there's no efficiency, and therefore there's no impact. At the end of the day, result is just, are you efficient, effective, and do you have impact? No? So let me break it down into commitment. This is what she said. Be intentional, have single-minded, hindi kalat, no? Single-minded priority, goal, and your brand promise. Monitor status real time. Because if you have priority, you know what to monitor. If you don't have priorities, then kalat ka, no? And you need to focus and to some of your point, say, should I do this? Should I do that? You need focus and not split attention. And part of it is an organization. Somebody has to be accountable, no? And you also need discipline and deadline to get things done. As I said, you're soft on people, you're hard on performance. The second letter B is about competencies. You have no knowledge, they have no knowledge and skills in B2C. They're a B2B company. Iba yung B2C. Iba ang competencies. So don't just get excited with a vision. Kasi vision yun eh. Pero pag-isipan, test nyo muna, pilot test nyo. And then you also need processes to routinize. And then you can learn from the past. If you fail, that's okay. Document it. You need to but you need to go back to what is called RCA. What's RCA? Root cause analysis. Why did we fail? That's the only way you can learn, is to be courageous enough to admit why did we fail and to learn from it. No? And C is coordination. No KPIs. Because if you don't know your priorities, you don't have KPIs. You just want to do it. And there are no silos because, as you said, it takes a tribe. No? And I agree with Anna Marjorie Liu. It's amazing presentation. So far, we had the former president of PFA, former president of AFI, former chair of Women Business Council of the Philippines. By the way, Chiqui used to be former chair of Women Business Council of the Philippines. No, so what I'd like to do is I'd like now to stop and give way to Chiqui to take over and explain to you the three C's of capability, but to expand and deep dive and then go for an example. And hopefully we might have we might still have time. So please, so Chiqui is an anthropologist. She's CEO of Mansmith. She has two master's degree. And she's either co-author or author of some books. And I always say the vision of Mansmith to be advocacy based came from an insight from Chiqui. So I always credit her for that. No. So Chiqui, please take it away and take over. I think you're muted.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Joe, for the introduction and for the acknowledgement that my heart is really into advocacy. Nahawa ka ng husto. So, maganda naman yung partnership. Now, I'd like to thank Rosemarie Rafael for sending over that video. She wanted to be here, except that as she is still current chair. It takes 2 years for our terms in women business, 2 years. So she is still the chair of Women's Biz. And we have a delegation to Cambodia, I think, no? And as private sector representative of the Department of Trade and Industry for women events and issues, she has to be there. But she did take time out to present this, and yes, it's a wonderful presentation, complete with text and everything. Now, if you notice, there's a word that keeps coming up from the very start of Josiah's presentation. It's the word intentional. Right? And intentional is good to remember, especially among entrepreneurs, because we do get to do a lot by instinct, right? Intuitive. We try to get into the action, sayang yung opportunity, benta ka agad, no? Or that's why Kobe was saying, are there opportunities that we're missing? Because that's the instinct of an entrepreneur. I mean, if there's an opportunity to grow, to get into something, to sell something, we want to be there. After all, that's what we're already doing. But the term intentional is a challenge because of the distractions and the excitement that come with both the challenges and the failures and the successes of a business. And Rosemarie Rafael was sharing about their failures and learning from it, and really looking at several factors now, which I will break down further into this slide. Hold on. Okay. Now, Josiah earlier mentioned, hold on. Okay. Earlier mentioned about the 3 C's, no? And we have Mansmith likes to have a lot of frameworks such that when you leave this session for today, all you have to do is think, okay, how can we apply this framework? And Josiah said, we did this framework on hindsight. Kumbaga, we deconstructed our experience and put it in the framework as we were developing our modules in execution. I am an execution person, and Josiah mentioned something about, where is that, huh? Hold on. This one, building capabilities and reducing risks. That's the leadership imperative of any entrepreneur or any person in charge in marketing or in operations. Now, I was not raised to be an entrepreneur. I had to learn it. Of course, it is fortunate that I learned it from the best mentor that I could ever have, Joe. He is so intuitive, instinctive, and natural when it comes to business that I just had to watch him and said, okay. And at a certain point, I can't do that because I'm such a perfectionist. And and I don't like failure. In that sense, how do you become an entrepreneur if you don't want to fail? And I learned that. I learned that by mitigating certain things, like if I improved my capabilities. That's why I learned, I studied, I went abroad, I took courses. I finished 2 master's degree trying to understand, and the second one is in anthropology, trying to understand consumer behavior, or why people, root cause analysis, as Josiah mentioned. Why do people do what they're doing, right? We already know that certain things have to be done, but people don't do it, even if there are metrics, right? Even if they know there are rewards. So what's happening there? And the second, so I learned that if I could do things right and understand certain things, I am building my capability, I can actually reduce my risk. Okay, so that helped in handling the perfectionist in me. And that's why when it comes to execution, ang dami na nagsasabi, especially in my term as Women Biz Chair, we have never met anyone as OC as you. You know, talagang boom, 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 kulit, kulang na lang, hindi pa natutulog ng mga tao, kailangan ko pataga. Nagawa nyo na ba to? Na-deliver nyo na ba to? Et cetera, et cetera. And that is it's how execution comes to be. Everything is really so intentional. And let's see now how intentional we were in coming up with the Waters Philippines shift from direct selling to multi-level marketing. I'm sure Josiah's mentioned in the past sessions about our other company, Waters Philippines. It's almost since 1996, or almost, how many years is that, right? And this is a story from that time when we had to change the business model from direct selling to MLM, multi-level marketing. Now, if you're familiar with and the people say how different are they? Now, initially in that time, in the mid 1990s, when you say direct sales, people were actually hired. Salespeople were actually hired to promote or to sell products. That's why, and they said they're salesmen. As such, the culture, the behavior, the metrics were very different. It was tough to hire committed people. They may have competitive selling, but committed, because it's easy for them to just shift jobs, right? Anyway, they get salaries if they don't sell as per target. Maybe they get to resign or they get fired, but they can always shift to the next sales company. Addressing that need at that point, and Josiah also mentioned something about choosing to go into a business that required explanation, because anybody can sell a blender or a toaster or an oven, or a portable oven, a microwave oven, without differentiation. It's just really all branding, and it's a commoditized market. So we specialized. We started to think, okay, if we are going into something like a consumer durable health product, like a water purifier, a water bio mineral pot, what does it take to build and to grow that business? And while we knew direct sales back then, we didn't know multi-level marketing. So you will see that as I click on the slide, it's not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Josiah mentioned the 3 C's of competencies, commitment, and coordination that are needed for you to be able to execute well. Okay, so you have to have the competencies to do things. You have to be committed to do it, and you have to be coordinated. Otherwise, sabi nga ni Rosemarie Rafael, kalat, no, kung saan-saan nanggagaling. And then we have the capability building framework that looks into the rewards, the people, the system, the structure, and the leadership. So you put that into a table and try to plug it in. Now, you can do this with your current companies, or if you're looking at a competitor and say, okay, they're doing something right, what are they doing differently from us? Try to plug it in, and you will see, you will see what's happening, why you can't catch up, or what you have to do to catch up just by plugging it in. So you have to remember that in execution, to build capabilities, to be able to grow your business, to do execution well, you have to have this matrix in place. Okay. So at the start, we did not know MLM. Josiah had to go to, I forget this school, University of Chicago, right? Joe? Did I get
Yep, University of Illinois in Chicago.
Illinois and Chicago? That was the only university back then that was offering a course, an MLM, teaching people. Backgrounder, before that time, it was taught professionally. MLM was taught to be pyramiding. Okay, even in the United States. What changed that was when Amway in the United States got the green light from the Supreme Court or the court that said they are legit. The MLM system is legit. It's not pyramiding. There are certain business MLM companies using another compensation plan framework that might be spurious or medyo malabo, no? But not Amway. So once that was given the green light, legitimizing it, then came this awareness that, oh, MLM is legit, and therefore it's an option, it's a business model that can be promoted. So Joe was one of the first, I guess he was the first Filipino to ever take that course. And not just that, he went to the Upline Masters and other foreign conventions, learning more about MLM, just to make sure that we get it right the first time around. Okay, so that was a clear commitment from leadership. And Josiah, being an educator himself, no, it is easy for him to put frameworks into place and understand, okay, there's something going on here in this MLM system, then maybe we can apply this or improve on it, as a matter of fact. So that was clear. We wanted to get into MLM. We had to learn it, and we had to learn from the best. As a matter of fact, a few years later, he wrote a book about network marketing, and that's being used again as a sort of Bible for those who wants to get into MLM. And he also put together the website together with the students back in LaSalle, where it was the first course in network marketing was taught in a university. They put up the website that identifies if the MLM company that you joined is actually a pyramiding setup or not. Okay, so very committed. Precisely also to address, as I mentioned, MLM was thought to be a pyramiding before, so we were very careful to make sure that we don't mess up that image. And we're very protective of the industry, the Direct Selling Association of the Philippines, to make sure that everyone who are there are legit MLM companies. And then, so the structure was different from direct sales. Remember, direct sales, we have to hire, train, give them everything they need. So yung sinasabing utak ahente versus MLM structure where you have independent distributors who are not paid. They earn by commissions and from personal sales and from their network sales. That's why it's multi-level marketing. And realizing that it's a commitment for these people to join your company without the salary, because they know that they will gain more personal and financial freedom under the MLM structure. Okay. And then, of course, part of the commitment is how do we attract people so they remain committed to our MLM business. And we do have distributors who have been with us since 1996. Okay, so the compensation plan was critical, is critical. I've seen several MLM companies or other direct selling companies who create such an impressive and mind-boggling comp plan only to change it midstream because they realize it's not sustainable. And that's not fair, right? You joined the company because this was the comp plan they promised. And then when you're there and active and all of a sudden they change it, that's not cool, right? So part of that is to make sure that the people to remain committed, we had to reward them with a very impressive compensation plan. And I'm proud to say that for Waters Philippines, we have not changed anything in the original to diminish the offer, but we only added additional, like the diamond. Anyway, there are several ways to earn, and then we added certain commissions, as you call it. So to even enhance, no? So we do not diminish, we add to enhance. We are the only company, I believe, that once you reach the division president level, or the highest level in the hierarchy of the MLM structure, it is inheritable. You can have your children inherit your position without having to start from the lowest rank. No? So it's there's benefit there for that, and we do have, again, since we've been here for almost 30 years, we have their children who I've seen grown up, also being part of the distributors of Waters Philippines. And of course, very important for independent distributors is recognition. You have to recognize them, because they work so hard for it. And the profile of our target distributors, this is very important. And later on, I'll talk about more about people. Important, of course, the processes. Remember that our distributors are independent, and they have their directive is to recruit and retain. So their network could grow really big and large, wide and deep. And how do they keep track? That's the role of the company, by ensuring that we have an IT system that keeps track of all this, as well as their earnings. So that's very critical. That's very critical. Now, as to competencies, we had to make sure that the system that we had, like the buddy system of transferring knowledge, product knowledge, selling skill, closing skills, have to be duplicable. So we have that kind of buddy system that ensures that the upline helps the downlines, etc., etc. And of course, part of the system is to understand the data that we have, when it comes to, again, retention and recruitment numbers. And we do incentivize that if that's the direction that we want to take. But also understanding what are the numbers telling us when it comes to the behavior and to the performance of our distributors. And the entire team, internally, the managers and the supervisors, the business development officers they have to understand what those data actually mean, and how it can help, and how do we plan. Management skills, remember, you have to plan, allocate, organize yourselves, and we need data for that, which also is with the help of IT. Now, again, I mentioned something about the people. When we started recruiting, shifting from direct sales to MLM, some of our first distributors actually were our hired employees from the direct selling company that we had before. Right? So these were the committed ones. These were the ones who saw the potential of shifting to being independent distributor. Actually, the potential is actually giving them more personal and financial freedom. They can earn more, actually, with MLM rather than being salaried from direct sales. So that was a start. That was how we started developing our distributor base. And of course, from there, also those who originally were owners or who bought the first units of Waters Philippines. Some of them still exist today because we have parts and filters still available for those units. Since they have proof of the effectiveness of the Waters Biomineral Pot, they agreed. They agreed to be uplines as well, and then the rest is history. As I said, we're almost here for 30 years. Cross-hierarchy collaboration means, so since there are different networks, and that's critical in a direct selling company, you don't want to just have one leader. You want to have several leaders. And it's not in this, and you know how good a compensation plan is, like in Waters Philippines, that even if you came in just last year versus who was somebody who was there since 1996, if you work hard since last year, you can actually overtake the number one, the pioneers. Right? So it's not like some MLM companies or direct selling companies na yung kumikita lang yung nauna. So this one hindi, no? So what we try to encourage among our distributors is cross hierarchy. So we have our leaders doing public business opportunity meetings for all other networks. We try to encourage that. And as a matter of fact, I also tell them, okay, you can, if you find your downline has a similar situation as another upline's downline, then hey, talk to the other network and say, can you talk to my downline? So maybe you can guide them. So we are encouraging that kind of culture. Remember, we are talking about building the culture. We're very strong in that because we teach it and because that's the right thing to do, right? Motivational culture, not just again the ethics involved, but also how to make sure that they remain committed. That requires competencies from the leadership and not just Josiah, but the entire management team. Remember, these distributors are independent. They don't get salaries. Why would they join you in the first place? No, so we really always start with the strength of the product. No, and then and because as long as you're convinced with the product, the compensation plan complements it. And there's no turning back kasi maganda both the product and the compensation plan. So very important to have a team that are competent in ensuring that people feel safe, feel motivated, feel inspired when they join Waters Philippines. We have a lot of trainings, of course. We do have a training culture. Magsahwa ka sa training kung gusto mo. So there are times that Josiah runs some seminars. I run the associate director's course. Time was when I would do the cooking demos when we had the cookware line. All these things. No, so we are actively involved, making sure that our team are very professional in their performance. Remember, and it's interesting that when we talk about our people, our distributors, some are not even college graduates, but they have risen through the ranks and have traveled several times, and then sila na rin. And when you listen to them, ang gagaling na rin nila mag-training, no? So it's again duplicable processes, no? Even the training modules that we have. Rewards, very important. Performance-based incentives. For them to be able to recruit, there are rewards for that. Retention has rewards for that. Of course, total number of sales, activation of new distributors, etc., etc. A lot will always be performance-based. Again, for coordination, very critical. People have to talk to each other. Josiah said you can't do things alone, and exactly what MLM is like. You have to be able to run several networks at the same time, especially if you reach the highest level. And it's important that you remain there. That there are people who coach and mentor to make sure that people are coordinated and reminded, especially of the purpose of why you're here. For Waters Philippines, one of the main purposes would be actually to provide families, no, especially those with overseas foreign workers as part of their family, to provide a livelihood for them, to make them stay at home, and that kind of, and we remind ourselves that when you help others achieve their potential, which is because you have to encourage your distributors, is you actually uplift yourself as well because you're the upline. So it's a kind of giving that comes back. Very important are conventions, and a lot of important, not just internally but also externally. But for internally, the coordination to make sure that the convention is the highlight of the year of all the hard work that our distributors have done. This cannot fail. This has to be up, and our team knows that. Our Waters management team knows that, and our supervisors and business development officers. And that's why a lot of effort goes into putting together this convention. So it's important that this gets rewarded as well. The performance as a reward is explained in the convention, is expressed in the convention. Structure is how we deliver value. So MLM is one structure. It's not just the organizational structure, but we want to also talk about important structure for the upline and upline system, that the responsibilities of the upline to coordinate with the network, to train their people. The people that they invite is their responsibility to train them. And we're very strong on the code of ethics. Again, build the culture, because we are very hard on proselytizing, which is really when you recruit downlines of other people to another direct selling company. You know, we're not stopping certain people from, okay, you want to sell certain other products, fine, that's up to you. But we don't encourage that, because that means you're lacking focus. But, if you do that, just don't let us catch you pirating people and bringing it to another company, because we are protecting the uplines, because there are several levels. So even if you recruit someone under you, it's inevitable that everybody else gets affected. No? So we're very strong on that. We have let go of certain people of certain leaders who we found to be recruiting for another direct selling company. That's part of the code of ethics as well of the Direct Selling Association of the Philippines. No, the proselytizing is a big issue. It's unprofessional and it demoralizes. And we want to protect the network of our distributors by making sure that nobody will pirate your people. So there's a code of ethics there. For the system, we have a lot of research that goes on to find out what is needed, no, to enhance coordination, to enhance commitment, to enhance competencies. And this requires, and through this, a lot of network meetings are done. And when we talk about network, we have several uplines that have their own network meetings. And we encourage that, so people are informed that the latest developments, incentives, plans are actually communicated. So there's a system of putting that together. Very important for the leadership to always have a business review. And the business review is not just the numbers, or are we hitting our points? We also look into, again, the number of acquisition and retention, which is very important in direct selling or MLM. We look into, and there's a structure here also, credit and collection that ensures that the competencies are in place, because we do have in installment plans, and that is one of the differentiations that changed in the business model when we shifted to MLM versus direct sales. So they're kind of putting all this together is why Waters Philippines is the leading MLM company in consumer home durables for almost 30 years. People always say that, when you're in MLM or direct sales, you usually go into consumables, no? Like vitamins, makeup, so the things, except if you have a Josiah Go with the vision of putting a consumer durable into MLM, then you'll be sure it works. All right. So I think, Joe, we're ready. You have your picture there. Isn't he a very handsome man? I chose right?